How about this little generic 10-inch tablet from Timo while I was in the hospital? I dialed up Timo and was thinking in terms of landing here. Of course, then it turned out that it was 5 weeks before I did, from the time I was told I would be here. Because not only did Philip want to wait until I was in the hospital, but also, I was in either the hospital or the rehab for a total of 6 weeks. And during that time, he luxuriated, it turns out, in going through everything I owned. He's a creep, gaslighting creep, gaslighting creep. And he has employees who are as bold as he is, whereas I noticed in Aniana they were more circumspect. The ones here are brazen, in my face, with an attitude that few people suffer nowadays, I would have to say. And at the same time, people represent themselves as utterly savvy about these things, and that what could go wrong? They're in charge. Well, not only diabetes and mistreatment in any number of ways, but also then I forgot the name of what it was that has me crippled now, muscle weakness and so on. The last 9 months, and the diet is pathetic. Well, the few groceries I was able to order, $100 doesn't buy much. Not much at all. And the people brought it in, and the same creeps, the same two. Of all the people here, the two more or less in the daytime, are reprehensible. Their attitude is beyond what many people ever saw about Aniana. But they really went berserk this morning, coming in when I'm sitting on the toilet, and then coming in with some nonsensical errand, with brandishing a roll of toilet paper. And I'll just tell you, I didn't like the representation that was attempted. Not only about what I pay attention to, but what others do. Also, and not quite with the same spastic approximation that was something of an alternative. These people are, complicated in the sense that, people think that when officers have to restrain a person, at least in terms of their hands and arms, if they're not only criminal but also spastic, at least in terms of the hypothesis that is permitted. What can happen is that people cannot cope without being able to wave their arms and carry on. What they say becomes almost as random as what I say. I'm not in good shape. I'll put it that way. I mostly just sit in one place, and given what's happened to me, I think it's irrational to think that I would yearn to do much of anything, and just no interest. No interest. That's, you might say, symmetrical. Many people are not interested as they were, but then there are others even more interested, and yet with less experience. And then the circus continues with a deep waters that don't even run much in high places, strangely enough, because things aren't getting better. And saying that they're getting better doesn't make it so. As you know, I did not choose to close out some accounts just because of indifference. On the other hand, I haven't opened many new accounts, and yet, word from some people that I trust has has me a little bit chastened about trying to make a recording like this a little bit more of an acknowledgement of reality that nevertheless comes across as fanciful by the time it gets back to those who are hurting me these days. And I don't have the money to carry on with nutrition beyond the sabotage that is offered here. And those people are thinking that not only has their brazenness been given a green light, evidently. I say evidently because it's worse today, for example, than yesterday, when they did not have to end up carrying food in here to offset their mendacity. I didn't have a chance to thank anybody for the fact that yesterday morning I got a breakfast that was superb. The grits were good, the biscuit was good, the scrambled eggs, it wasn't fried, but that's okay because the eggs were real and not unreal in terms of preparation. And the bacon was very good. Now, I have to assume that that is normal around here and only exceptional for me. And if people want to carry on about that statement of fact, then I guess they'll carry on as they have about statements of fact all along, while other people think it's on illuminated parchment of some sort, and of course it's not. But this is said in the context of thanking a few who know full well that I would like to thank them. And as it was pointed out, I really just haven't been, I've been remiss. I've said a few times in the context of, these debates that will be unmentioned here, that I've had plenty to deal with, ever since I got to Willows. My attempt has been to disabuse people of a lot of ideas based on experience that people don't challenge or question. And I am happy when people acknowledge that, because it enables me to move on to some stuff that needs predication. But, my mildest comments go to those whose figureheads bear the shame of building a car designed in the 90s technology, fabricated well into the next century. And, people point out, look at this motor, or look at this and that, and yet I wouldn't have done that, as you know. And I used to think some figureheads had great discretion because they didn't matter. It turns out that it doesn't matter, that they are in lockstep with some folks who ought to know better. So, that's the mild attempt to refer to things, and then, what comes back. Some think in terms of blowback and all that. That's all true, but that's nothing compared to the implications of what they're doing among themselves. For example, I got a dose of bad news about Columbia and Ohio class, and I'm just dismayed, so I found something kind of in between to share. But I remember the Z-grams. During Vietnam, there were some famous things offered up, and people talked about Z-grams, and then, of course, that led to the political or the career assassination of where they came from, allegedly. And now we have the amazing uh, Z-gram class, and a lot of heartache. Um, Cheney used to say, "Don't worry about the deficit; it doesn't matter." Well, people are trying to make the deficit matter without noticing that they can't make sense of it. You know, it's about like you had an army of people like Prime Minister Truss trying to understand what's going on, and it doesn't do me any good to understand something if I say something and get clobbered, and I'm just about clobbered enough. You know what I mean? And so. I'm grateful for the kindness that has resulted in a few groceries here. Uh, but the prospect, for example, is that I won't have that same mitigation after a short interval. The prospect is $2 a day, and what am I going to do? There's nothing I can do about that. Other people could have prevented not only a repeat, but they could have prevented the first instance of things that have been hard on me, and that doesn't change the fact that this is a good time with a few groceries delivered for me to thank the people responsible for basically overcoming those who are not helpful. For example, Philip is not helpful with any of the things that he said he was going to do fairly recently. And so that leaves me just about buried alive or drowning in the blowback of many people who are pointing each other the same way they did in Germany, you know, long before I got there, both in the West and in the East, where I was welcome. The Germans were good to me, and I guess retrospect is rather painful in that regard when I compare that to any number of things, and that makes me very sad, you know. And then, in terms of the way people operate, from what vantage does Philip decide that I'm depressed, so that he initiates a call to some agency, you know, this public and private skill that people have in organizing, and out comes a woman who would earn $100 for sitting in the room here, and I don't know what her bosses would get, as if her being here would alleviate my depression. Well, first of all, what depression is Philip talking about? How would he know? So, you know, the transgressions in terms of all this stuff mean that people just, you know, do as they please. Well, yes, I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy about a lot of things that he doesn't have a clue about. And then in addition to that, finding my gaslighting ordeal continuing, you know, he had plenty of time to make everything into a nightmare here. Many things gone, many things sabotaged, and then the debris arranged to tell a story. And then things since then. For example, when I was away from the room long enough, some things were rearranged, and a can opener that I had was put way back in a bottom drawer, similar to the way the Lenovo was hidden for several days, or removed and then put back as if in the top drawer. Anyway, uh, in a bottom drawer, I found when I was looking for something else uh, several of these disposable diapers or pull-ups, whatever they call. Um, they substitute for boxer shorts because I haven't bought any since they were all stolen repeatedly. I bought some repeatedly anyway. It doesn't matter. But anyway, in a most strange way, a can opener that I had seen here earlier and cost about $15. One with a big handle that rotates, but it doesn't bolt to the table. That was found under some diapers in a bottom drawer when I was looking for something else. And I thought, damn, look at this. Because, I have 2 cans left that needed a can opener. Isn't that just poignant? 2 cans and no can opener. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, if that's not petty enough for you to be uninterested, then I don't know what could be. Well, no, I take that back. I do know some other things that would be of no interest. But that's another story. Some people like that news, others uh, think it's hilarious. And in a way it is when I consider people want to come off with gravitas when really they just might be a bag of hot air. But who's to say among any number what should be said of any from time to time? I digress, and this is 17 minutes and some odd seconds. Well, anyway, the GECOM is sabotage. That's hundreds of dollars of dysfunction and so much else. 2 terabytes of missing files or sabotage. The deck of cards that I had with addresses. Yeah, I'm not playing with a full deck. You can say that for sure. Nor am I even concerned to find them because, I've just taken some advice and just standing down in terms of wasting time. Not like Stewart, Stuart Evans is wasting a lot of money and time. Not like the Pentagon, though. He can't command that level of waste. But, when I see the travesties when 48 Vine turns into 48 missile, and when 48 Vine is kind of replicated in a weird way in terms of a row of apartments and populated by people on a payroll who make my mere history into that much more of a nightmare. And so I come to the Willows place here knowing that this would be a nice place, but for the payroll and obviously where the payroll derives its strength. Ultimately from the taxpayer, ultimately from the administration now. But these people know what that means, namely that they are a long way from having to be held accountable, because it is indeed as if there's no tomorrow, sort of like it is for me. So what would be better than to thank the people involved? But I don't know what I would want to try to say. I think maybe people know already how much gratitude I would express if I could. And today's only the 1st of July.